up, everybody? Axe Wizard here, back with a long-awaited update for my game. Now, don't get your hopes up. It's not like a big, massive update. It's been like 3 or 4 months since my last devlog, and during that time, I really haven't been able to do much on the game. At least that you'll be able to see. So, long story short, I got laid off from my job back in June. Stuff was getting pretty dire. I got a new job middle of October, and I've been pretty much just working at my new job, just trying to learn all there is to learn. And I think it's become pretty clear that I'm a much better web developer than I am a game developer, especially looking at my code. So, anyway, let's jump in, and I'll try to remember what I've done, because I've done this piecemeal over the last 3 or 4 months. You know, 15 minutes of work here, 30 minutes of work here, even 5 minutes of work sometimes. I've been doing a lot of thinking and brainstorming and a lot of stuff behind the scenes on the game. Not just code work, but also trying to think about like storylines and factions. I've even been drawing some new ships and stuff like that in my spare time. So I have been working on it, but it doesn't feel like I've been working on it. Especially because I've only had a few bits and pieces of time here and there to where I felt I had enough energy to work on it. Because especially since I started this new job, it feels like I've used up all my brain juice by the time I get home. The last thing I want to do is kind of look at some more code. So... But anyway, let's get into what I've done. There's not much to show visually. There's a few tweaks I made. Let's just jump into it. So it's going to go full screen in a second. There we go. So we're up on the screen now. So let's load our game. So a few devlogs ago, we implemented the saving and loading system, so that's working out great. That's fantastic. So what did I change? Let's see. First things first, if we go to the shipyard, I now have a customized screen. It's very basic. Needs a lot of work. It's not even done yet. You won't even be able to do everything I want to do. There's still a few things I have to do behind the scenes in order to make this work how I want. So what you can do is just show some details here about your current ship. I figure it's going to show some ship modifications. God, that's a tongue twister. Show some ship modifications. Sally shall, she shall, whatever. So ship modifications. It will show some ship modifications here. So I'm thinking ship modifications are things that little add-ons that you can do to your ship to tweak your stats. So for example, if my freighter here just moves super slow, maybe I might be able to sacrifice some of my cargo capacity to install this module that you know, maybe it makes my thruster stronger, so I have a faster acceleration speed and a higher maximum speed. So my max speed, my max speed right now is 290. My acceleration speed is 1.2. I'm also thinking about how I want to make these numbers mean something to the actual player. I assume it would be okay, just leave them as they were, because it's not too big. It's not too hard to understand. Like, oh, bigger number equal better. But I think it would be nice to be able to intuitively have some context about what these numbers mean. So I might be able to translate these into like units of measurement that might mean something. I don't know. But this is what I have right now. Very early stage, just shows some details. So I have some ideas for modifications that will add various benefits, not only stat wise, but also other features. So for example, maybe your mini map will become more detailed if you get a more in-depth scanner. When you're viewing the map, maybe your scanner can actually scan like 2 systems out as opposed to only 1. So you might see where various hops are. You might be able to get another upgrade that will show you some details about that system, whether, you know, what kinds of planets are there, what kinds of life forms might be present. I don't know. Could be a cool thing. So there's some work that needs to be done on the back end to make sure that all that stuff works how I want it to. So that's where I'm at. So I can see available ship modifications. This button doesn't do anything. I'm gonna make it pop up like a window or go to another screen or something like that. That will allow you to select modifications and you can buy them. I figure they're probably gonna take up cargo capacity, so you'll have to install like a 5-ton module or something to make that work. I figured that's a pretty good thing, and it makes sense. And then for weapon slot details, I'm also still working on this, but right now you can actually mouse over your weapon slots and you can view details about them. There's also, I still need to do a lot of work on this as well, but you can see it gives you some information about the weapon slot type. So it's a light weapon slot. Well, what does that mean to the player? I have to find a way to make that more clear. There's light, medium, and heavy. Weapon slots allow you to equip weapons in that slot. So a light weapon slot can equip light weapons. Medium weapon slot, medium weapons, so on and so forth. So you can't put like the biggest, baddest ass cannon in the galaxy on your little shuttle starting out. You gotta have a ship that has the capacity and the capability to handle that kind of weaponry. So I do that with weapon slots. So I need to find a way to make that more intuitive and understandable to the player. But that's my thought process there. It also tells you what the slotted weapon currently is. And then you see it says tags here, and this just has just a bare array of projectile, fixed, light. I implemented a tag system that I'm going to get into in the code review portion, but basically I was looking through my Pathfinder 2nd edition book. It's a tabletop role-playing game. And I noticed on the pages, like every ability or item or whatever had like a tag on it. So it had like whether it's a name of a trait, like this weapon is agile, or this spell is evocation, or whatever. And I got to thinking about like, oh, so whenever it has this tag, this rule applies to it. I could make something work like that. So I started implementing a tag system. So I need to make these tags more appealing, more visually like useful. Because right now it's just, oh, projectile, fixed, light. What does that mean? I want to make them like little individual colored things, and then when you mouse over it, it'll have a tooltip explaining what it does. So I need to redo this, because this is all BB code right here. So I'm going to need to actually probably break this out into not BB code so I can make a tooltip over it. Unless Godot has a way to do a tooltip on BB code. I don't think so, but I'll have to look into it. So tags, that's a new system I'm putting in, but basically it's going to let me do a lot of cool things. So I've got the groundwork laid for that. That was probably one of the heavier things I did, was just brainstorming all the tags I want, developing the system to handle that, and then using that, refactoring some of my existing code to use tags. And there's still a lot of places where I have to switch to using tags instead of like other variables that I programmed in. So the code is in a really messy state right now. I'm not too happy about that. But I think tags is going to make life a lot easier and give me a lot of flexibility later on, because it allows me to determine how things interact with each other. So for example, a ship is going to have an electrical tag. And if you fire a EMP, like a weapon that has the EMP tag, well, EMP affects electrical things. You see where I'm going with this? So I can program a lot of these different behaviors and interactions and just base them on the presence of if this item or being that I'm interacting with has this tag. So for example, say if I'm fighting like one of the alien races that I have planned, the Zerzalians, they're probably going to have biological ships. They're not going to be like tech. They're going to be biological. So if you fire an EMP at those bad boys, it's probably not going to do anything to them. So that's the tag system in a nutshell. I don't have a great way to show that to you right now. I'll show it in the code review section, but let's be honest, most people don't watch that, and that's perfectly fine. It's only for the coding nerds like myself. So it gives some other details here about the weapon slot. Gives you the rate of fire, so you can see that this weapon, this light coalition light gun here, this fires 10 shots per second. I don't know if I should change that to like rounds per minute. It's basically, it shoots 10 rounds per second is what it shoots. So if we wanted to convert that to minutes, it would be like 600 rounds per minute, right? That's pretty fast. You can see the damage it does is 1 to 2, and then the DPS, I gotta do some formatting here. I gotta put a space after the number, but it does roughly 15 damage per second, because if you're shooting 10 shots, then do 1 to 2, we take the average of that. So 1 plus 2 is 3, divided by 2 is 1.5. So 1.5 times 10 is 15. Bam, there's your math. It also shows the maximum effective range of this weapon. So this is calculated by how fast the projectile moves, which I should also put the speed of the projectile on here too. But it calculates how fast it moves and then how long before it expires, and that is your range. That's your maximum range. So I've got that put in there. Again, the range is just a number, doesn't necessarily mean anything. I don't really have a great way to display that. Like, I could maybe add like a camera zoom on here so you can zoom out and you can see the actual range of it. I might add like a circle radius. That could be cool. It's an idea that I could do. And then I'm going to have this button here that says show available weapons for sale, or see available weapons. And when you click this, it doesn't do anything now, but what I'm going to have it do, I think, is it's going to bring up another screen. It's going to show you all the available weapons that are for sale at this location. And it'll filter it automatically by the slot type you have selected. So you could potentially trade in your old weapon, get a bit of a trade-in credit, and then you'll be able to purchase a new weapon. So say if I don't want this fast machine gun, maybe I want some sweet beam laser instead, I could absolutely swap that out. So it gives you some options there for customization. Now, I think between ship modifications and being able to put different weapons in your weapon slots, those give you like the bare minimum customization that you would probably expect from a game like this. There are some other things I want you to be able to do. I would like you to be able to customize your ship in different ways. In addition to that, I would love to be able to change the paint job of your ship. So I was kind of digging into shaders. I might be able to just change color with shaders, but the testing I've been doing so far hasn't been working out that great. And I also was playing around with the idea of, what if you want to move your weapon slots around, rearrange them on your ship? What if you want to sacrifice some cargo capacity to add additional weapon slots? That could be cool. That also brings a problem of, I could easily see a meta being developed to where people would just buy big ass freighters and then just sacrifice all their cargo capacity for like all the weapons in the world. So I would have to have some feasible way of like limiting that in a way. Otherwise, it would just be a thing of like, well, why would I buy any of the other ships when I can just get a freighter and I can just put, 500 light weapon slots on it, pack that bad boy with a bunch of turrets, and now I'm shooting like 6 million rounds per second. I mean, I gotta have some way to encourage, like, to put a cap on that in some way. It would be really fun. I do want to have some ships that you should be able to do that. So for example, warships, they're made for war. You should be able to put a crap load of weapons on them. So I think what I might do is I might just have a base weapon slot amount, and then I might have to specify a maximum weapon slot amount. So for example, for this small freighter here, this coalition small freighter, I might say it starts out with only 2 weapon slots, but maybe you can have a maximum of 5. I think that would be reasonable. And I think that would give you a pretty good trade-off to where, yes, you're a freighter. You make your money by buying and selling goods. So the more you can carry, the more money you make. But depending on the routes you take, it might be advantageous to have those 3 extra weapon slots just in case pirates decide to take what you got. So there's a lot of thinking to do there with that as well. So I think that that is probably what I'm going to do. I don't know if I'm going to implement the ability to move the weapon slots where you like. I might do it. Why not? It's a single player game. It's not multiplayer, so it's not like I have to like balance things to facilitate fair play. Who cares? If that's how you want to play it, then do it. So I think maybe I will add that. I don't know. TBD, to be determined. But that's what I got for the customized screen so far. A few other changes that I've made. I haven't made it on this screen here. So you see how it says these numbers here? So this is, I think, is this 8 billion or 8 trillion? I can't tell. So we got thousands, millions, billions, trillions. So this Synthocracy freighter, this Synthocracy transport is 8 trillion credits, right? Nobody can read this number and see exactly what that actually means. Like that's a lot of money. So if we click on it, oh, it's actually 8 billion. I guess I'm just, maybe I didn't do that right. Let me see. Thousand. This is millions, and then bill. Okay, yeah. So it is 8 billion. Yeah. See, exactly. That's not a readable number. So what I did is I listed price here. I set it to be 8 million. Your current ship value subtracts 125 million from that, so you will pay 7.88 billion. That is much more readable. Down here, I guess you can't see. Let me move myself over. Oh, the screen's going to go wonky for a second. There we go. So down here, oh, wait for it. So down here, you can see it says current funds to 142.97 MC. I still haven't removed the C. That was to denote the credits. I don't have a fancy currency sign I'm using. I should add that at some point. It's on the list. It's on the list. Give me a break here. So you can see, I think that's more readable. So 8 billion. So your net amount you would pay is about 700 or 7.88 billion. So that's about what you would pay. So it's technically 7.75 by 7.85, but I think it's rounding up. I don't know. No, actually, that's right. God, just working with these big numbers, it's hard to do math. So yeah, that's about right. It's just rounded. So I think it's like 7.8 or 5. I don't know. It might be, I don't know. I think that's right. Anyway, you get the idea, and it'll show you whether you can buy it or not. So if this purchase button is grayed out because you don't have enough money anyway. So it handles that. I'm still working on cleaning that up. So that was one change I made. Let me move myself back. There we go. I moved myself back. That's good. So leave. Let me actually check and see if this if we do full screen, but then leave it as borderless. Oh, oops! I unchecked borderless. Here we go. There we go. Let's see. Does this matter? Oh, I hit exit. Whoops. Let me run it again. There we go. Okay. So it also shows it here in the market board, the trade goods. So I think this is a lot easier to read. So for example, platinum is going for 4.95K. So you can see that's almost 5,000 per item. I think that's a lot more readable. You can see here I still have to get rid of that MC or whatever. But yeah, I think that's just more readable. So, but I think that's the most of what I've done. The other change I made is I changed boost a little bit, and I'm still working on it. I'm not happy with it. So you can see over here by my head it says boost ready 100%. So now if I hit boost, I just hit the shift button to boost. It just does it, and then it boosts, and then my speed gradually returns back to my maximum, and then the boost has to recharge. So I did make that change because I thought that was a lot more intuitive, just one big boost to go, as opposed to being able to boost for 4 seconds and then just keep spamming boost to get much farther. I didn't want to have to put some sort of cooldown on it, so I just made it so it had to recharge, which I guess is still putting a cooldown on it. So, way to go, me. Anyway, that's about what I've done. So I think now it's time to jump into the code review portion. So, code review. See, on my list of things I've done since last episode, I fixed an issue where after buying a new ship, stuff wasn't fully updated after leaving location. I don't even remember what that was, because I think that was like 3 months ago. So yeah, here let me look at my past commits to my repository here and see if maybe I can find out what that change was. So minor bug fixes, that was back in August. Brutal. Let's see what I did there. Okay, looks like in the UI shipyard buy ship window. Let's go take a look at that. I think that's what I made that change. So we go to buy ship window and let me see, on button buy pressed. Here we go. So confirmation prompt, yes. I added these. So what was happening is when I bought a new ship, it wasn't registering my new hit points, my new shields, my new cargo space, or my new boost cooldown. So I added those to be saved in player data as well. So I'm just updating that to the ship instance that I bought. So that's all I did there for that change. Wasn't too big a deal. So let's go back to main and see. My confirmation prompt no longer looks as bad. So I had a panel and I used a pop-up component or node instead. And let's just fire that up so we can see how that looks. So load. If I go to the shipyard and just go to buy a new ship, and I go to purchase, it brings up this actual little pop-up node, which has like this slight gradient. So as you can see, it's lighter around the edges and darker in the middle. And it just says, are you sure you wish to purchase the Synthocracy shuttle for a Synthocracy shuttle for a final price of minus 124 million? So I would actually gain money because this bad boy's only $1 million, so I would actually gain a lot of money. So I'm gonna hit no. There we go. So that was it. That was just a small change there. I forgot I made that. That's why I have a log of it. And I also have the version control history, which is nice too. So I fixed a weird comma issue when formatting a negative amount as a currency. Let's just take a look at what we did on the... I think that was just up here. Here we go. Our formatter function might throw in weird commas if we have a negative value. So this was in util.gd. Almost said .go. That's what I'm used to working in, is Golang. So let's go down to our util script here. So if we go to format currency, so this is the main change I made here. So our formatter function might throw weird commas if we have a negative value. So I'm specifying a prefix, and I did this if value. I should have just done like absolute value or like ABS value. That would have just always made it positive. I forget these things. See, this is what happens. You get code like this when you when you write code all tired. So that's what I got there. Maybe I might just do that. Whatever. I'm gonna leave it. It's working. I don't want to make some breaking change right now. So yeah. So those were the bug fixes I did. Fix that weird comma issue. So the next big thing I did is I implemented tags in preparation for ship customization and also expanding ship combat and stuff. So let's take a look at tags. So I find myself throwing more and more stuff into auto loads, which probably isn't the best idea to make them global, but it's a small game anyway. So I figure tags are something that's going to be used like all the time. So tags is a good thing to have. So if we pop open our tags, what I have here is a list of just constants. Now, initially I was going to do this as just a simple enum, but then that makes it so if I want to organize it, it would break save files if I reorganize things just doing them as enumerations or enums. So I wrote this is why I always encourage you to do comments in your code, because for this example, I haven't really touched this much. It's been sporadically over the past few months, but because I comment my code, I can see what I was thinking when I wrote this stuff, and I can say, oh, okay, that's what this is for. And I can also just pick right up from there. If I didn't have these comments, I'd be like, what was I using most of this stuff for? So I'll just read this here. So here we declare a list of tags. Tags can be applied to anything and everything. It will allow us to specify behavior or interactions based on tags. For example, a ship that has the electrical tag may be susceptible to an attack from a weapon with the EMP tag. Normally for something like this, one might be inclined to set these as enums. However, doing so would mean this would never be organized, and any attempt in doing so would break saved data. So we're going with string constants so we can reorder and reorganize them for readability. And we're going to organize this alphabetically. So you can see here I threw just a bunch of tags together and I just have them in alphabetical order. So I was just throwing, anytime I would have an idea for something I might want to do, I would just throw a tag in for it. So for example, acceleration. What is this tag for? Usually means something modifies the acceleration rate of a ship. So my thought process here was like when I am making some more ship modifications to be able to customize your ship, a modification would be able to have the acceleration tag on there, and you could clearly see that it's going to modify your ship acceleration, right? Also, when programming it, it would automatically know which, I could set it to where if it's an acceleration tag, it knows to modify the acceleration. So that was my thought process there. So you got things like acid. What is this for? Causes acid damage, which is resisted by shields, but effective against hull and biological. Ooh, there's some cool stuff there. So now there's combat becomes a bit more nuanced. Maybe now you want to have different types of weapons to fight different types of enemies. So if you're going to be going into Zerzalian space, you might want to bring a few acid weapons with you because it might be more effective against acid, or it might be more effective against biological ships because they're not going to be mechanical or electrical. So yeah, so I have all these different tags, like biological, something that is living. Beam, fires a beam rather than a projectile. Boost, affects temporary speed increases called boost. So I can have items that make you boost farther and faster and more frequently. So there's more customization that you can have there. You could have something that maybe modifies cargo. So maybe, I was talking earlier about how if you wanted to sacrifice some cargo space to be able to install another weapon slot, maybe that might have the cargo tag because it's going to be affecting your cargo space. Vice versa, if you just want to make a pure freighter, you could just get rid of all your weapon slots and maybe free up some more cargo space. That could be one thing you could do. Also, I added in the ship classes, so carrier, cruiser, freighter, fighter. I added those as tags. I need to... There's still a few places in the code I have to swap that over. I'm still using the ship class variable. And the reason why I haven't swapped that over fully yet is because there's a few... I think I have in some code places, I'm checking for the presence of a ship class variable to verify if a thing is a ship. So I need to figure out a better way to verify it's a ship. Maybe I should make a ship tag to verify that it's a ship. I might do that. Looks like we're going to do it after shield. So const ship of type string is going to equal ship. Denotes that this thing is a ship. Cool. Now we have a ship tag. Save that bad boy. Sweet. So I might work on refactoring that code. Let me just make a note of that in my master list of stuff here. Where I left off, refactor ship code to use tags. Added ship tag to. There we go. I will know what that means. So let's go back to tags. So yeah, so these are all the different tags that I've added. since I have them as constants that are just strings, I can add more of them, and I can re-alphabetize them or rearrange them as needed. But as of right now, I'm just adding things in alphabetically. Seems to be a sane, normal way to organize this stuff. I could later organize it by like maybe a subclass of tags. So for example, these tags only affect weapons, and these tags only affect ships. But I don't know if I'm going to do that, because tags allow me to do that behavior regardless of whatever it is. If it has that tag, it'll be affected in some way, and I can program that behavior in. So tags is just the start to allow me to do all that. Another change I did with tags is in my ships list here. So I started having a list of all the ships. So it has the name, it has the description, which you see when you go to buy it. It basically explains like what it is. It also has the path to the scene, shows what factions it's a part of. So for example, you can't buy like a Zerzalian ship from the Harmonious Synthocracy world. That won't work. So here it has ship class. I can probably get rid of that, and I can put the tags here. So you can see I already have tags cruiser. I have tags electrical. I think I also have a tag mechanical. So something that can be affected by repair. So I think I should also add mechanical to these ships, as well as tag ship. So we'll do tags mechanical and tags ship. There we go. So I got to add all those to this. So let me go back and add a to-do here. Update ships.gd to have all the correct tags. Save. There we go. So anyway, so I'm specifying what each ship should have. And then what I'm going to do is that I also need to, I don't know if I'm currently doing that in my save data. So if I go to my ship code and I go to my save function, I'm not currently saving the tag. Oh yeah, because my ships aren't using tags yet. That's right. So anyway, I was going to also include the tags of the player ship included in the save data. So you might get some sort of add-on that maybe makes you resistant to acid. So you might have like an acid tag or something on there that you could check to make sure that you have acid resistance or whatever. I don't know. Maybe you have some protection against EMP, so you can add EMP tag on there. Yeah. All sorts of different ways I could program that in, but just having the ability to use tags is a pretty big deal there. So I guess this is the tag system is probably the big thing for this, even though I did a lot of work on the customized screen. I say a lot of work, but really it was just I would pop it open. I would just fight understanding how Godot 3 does UI. Still does it way better than GameMaker ever did. But I'm just so used to doing like web development with React and working in grids and stuff like that, to where I have to fight with getting containers and stuff to work how I expect, because they don't work how I expect. I think Godot 4 solved some of that, but I tried to port this to Godot 4. That didn't work out very well. Maybe in the future. So yeah, that was tags. So implemented tag system. I also changed boost to be a single burst with a cooldown. So what did I do for that? Okay, reworked boost. Let's see what I did for this commit here. So I got rid of boost duration and boost duration max. I changed it to boost cooldown and just set to be 15. So I think all ships are set to 15 seconds by default now. I'll remove that. So if action boost, I think that's where the majority of the code came into play. I don't remember why I tweaked this. Anyway, let's look in Godot, shall we? So ship, I think that was during our process. So if actions boost, can we boost? We're simply checking if the boost cooldown timer is less than or equal to 0. Should only ever be 0, but we're just checking if it's less than just in case. We can boost. So we are getting the new boost vector to calculate that. We're applying that to our motion. We're boosting, adjust the max speed accordingly. So the final max speed is now our max speed plus our boost speed. And then reset our cooldown. So boost cooldown is now reset. Play boost effects. That's the little stupid star animation I have that I'm going to get rid of. I'm looking into finally playing with shaders, which should give me a lot more visual control over how things look and feel. I got some cool things planned with that. Not in this episode though. And then we're emitting a signal that our boost changed so we can update our UI. So that's all we're doing there. So when it comes time to calculate our speed, cap speed, I just have it set to this arbitrary 3 number. I don't remember what I was doing there. So basically when you boost, it sets your final max speed to be the boost amount. And then that means you're going that speed. But I think it automatically just sets your max speed back to your original. So that means that this cap speed, it's slowly reducing your velocity to go back to that maximum speed. So if we play the game here and we give it a second to load, there it goes. And if I'm going here, you can see just by my head, it shows what speed I'm going at. Somewhere between like 8,000 kilometers a second. Once I boost, I was going to like 100,000 kilometers a second, then slowly went back down to the normal speed. So that's how I'm handling that right now. And once my boost comes up again, boom, we're going faster and faster, and then we're slowing back down again. So that's how that works there. I like that. I don't like those stupid little boost particles I have playing. I'm going to get rid of those, so don't worry about that. But that's what I've got there. So that was a small change I made to boost. I also added weapon slot data to player save data. So when it came time to working how I wanted to customize weapon slots, I had to have a way to change those, right? Because if you're gonna, because all that stuff was just stored by default on the ship scene itself. So that means every time I would reinstance that scene, if you made any changes to your weapon slots, it would just be reverted back to whatever the default was on that scene. So I had to have some way to store that. So I stored that in the player save data. So if we go to my ship code and we take a look at my save method here, so you can see that we have weapon slot save data. So where are we getting that? So you can see here, we're getting that here. Weapons.get weapon slot save data. So if we take a look at our weapons, weapons. So if we look in the code here, we are declaring weapons somewhere up here. I guess I could control F, but I'm stubborn. I got it. Here we go. So weapons is of type ship weapons. So I have an actual subtype I made on all my ship called ship weapons. So if we go look at that, so we have this array called weapons, which is get weapons. And then we also have this, we have 2 functions I made, get weapon slots and get weapon slot save data. So get weapon slots is useful to just get information about the weapon slots you currently have. So this is just iterating through all the children and saying, hey, if this has a weapon in child, this is just checking if this weapon variable exists in this node. Then we expect it to be a weapon slot, and we're appending it to this list, and we're just returning that list of weapon slots. So get weapon slot save data prepares the output array, gets all the children, goes through in slots, makes sure that it is a class node 2D, and then what we're doing here is we're storing the position. So vector 2 by default is not supported by JSON, so we just have to break out the X and Y into separate keys, so key value pairs, so X and Y. We're also getting the slot type, so that's light, medium, or heavy, and then the weapon name that we currently have slotted in there, and that corresponds to the weapons list here. So I have a list of all these weapons. So it corresponds to this name here. So, oh, and you can see that I also added these tags to my weapons. So you can see projectile, turret, light, beam, fixed, light. So I got those tags added there too. I've got weapons pretty much using tags. There's a few places where I have to tweak it to use tags, but for the most part, I've got weapons using tags. Anyway, so we're getting that. So I'm just getting that save data. So I'm getting where that weapon slot is positioned on your ship, what type of slot it is, and also what weapon it currently has slotted. So if you were to, say for example, if I implement the ability to move your slot where you want it to, it will save that. If you go to a ship, or if you go to a planet and you buy a new weapon slot, it will, or not a new weapon slot, a new weapon, it will save that. And next time your ship is instanced, it will, I changed the code to, let's see, I think it's in my main that handles setting up the space scene and instancing your ship. So let's go to set up space scene. And if we go to So here we go. So when we are instancing our player scene, we're setting it to be the player. So whatever our player ship is, so we're loading that from player data. So if we have a file name, that should be the, I think that's the actual resource path. So we're loading the file name of the actual ship we have saved. So you start out with the Synthocracy shuttle, but if you buy a new ship, your player save data gets updated with that new ship. And then we're instancing that ship. We're setting it to be the player. We're adding a camera to it, setting that camera to be current. That way the camera follows you as the player. Doing some other stuff here. We're just checking that that we actually have player data. So if not, player data empty. So we're just making sure that we actually have a save file. Otherwise, we just leave it as default. So if we do, we are setting all of the normal variables, such as their like velocity, whatever they were moving at, the last location they were at, the rotation they were, what their current hit points were, their shield values, boost cooldown timer, and inventory data. All that's being preserved. And then we're adding it to the scene. And then we're also doing another check, and you might ask, well, why not just group this in with the other stuff? There's a reason for that. So now that the ship has been added to the scene, set weapon slot data from save file. So we have to actually add it to the scene first. That way its ready function gets called. And then once it's instanced and it has all the default weapon slots there, then we overwrite those weapon slots with our weapon slot save data that we have. So for my weapons, which is of type ship weapons, if we go back to that, you can see we have a method called overwrite weapon slots. So this is just going to reset the weapons array and sound players. So you can see I'm just going through and I'm just removing all children, just getting rid of them all. I'm getting the slot scene so we can recreate our weapon slots. So what I'm doing is that for every single slot we have in our slot save data, I'm looping through those. And I'm saying, hey, we're going to instance a new slot scene, which I think is of type Node 2D, obviously, because I specified that type here. Yay for clear code. We're setting the variables, so we're setting the slot type, and we're also setting the weapon name. We're doing that before we add it to the scene, because then the ready function gets called, and then that's what actually makes it get the weapon and instance that. It's like a chain reaction kind of thing. So once we've added it to the scene, then we're setting the position of it. And then from there, we're going to repopulate our weapons. So this is after this whole loop has done. So once we've gone through every single slot in our slot save data, we're going to re-get all of our weapons. And this is just an internal method. And this just gets the weapons that we currently have. So that way, if the ship wants to fire weapons, it can just tell us what weapon type to fire, and we fire all of our weapons. So yeah, that's the kind of convoluted system I've got set up working right now. There's probably a cleaner way to do it. That's what I've got. So that's a lot of the big work I did. I almost forgot about that. It's been so long. I did all that work so I could save weapon slot data and also have it, save and also be able to load it and be able to modify our weapon slot. So now I have the groundwork laid. that I could change weapon slot positions. I can add additional weapon slots, and I can also I can swap out weapons within those weapon slots. So that's what I did there. Let's go back to our main. I'm already here. And let's see. Implemented ability to save and load weapon slot data. I already went over that. Started on the customized window for the shipyard. Yep. So that's the big thing I was working on. I decided to stop because I already had a lot going. I've already been recording this video for almost an hour, so that I probably made the right decision stopping it there, because no one's gonna watch an hour-long video like this of me rambling about my poorly pieced together code. So what I did for that is, if we go down here to my file system in my UI, in my shipyard folder, I got a bunch of random junk in here. Like, I'm not happy with how I have this organized at all. I probably need to break these down into smaller chunks, which means more files maybe, but I don't know. Anyway, so for our customized window scene, we pop this open. So this is the scene we have here. So I'm doing a similar thing that I was doing with my buy ship window. When you're buying a new ship, it gives you a viewport here, and I instance the ship, and you can see it flying through space. That way it gives you like an interactive example of it. But so I'm doing some interesting things here with this. So here I'm doing my normal stuff. I'm defining a custom signal so that the shipyard window knows when this is done to close it. And I think it just goes back to the location window. I'm defining some of the nodes that I need to manage, so I'm just getting references to those. I'm using the onReady keyword here. That way it does it after it is added to the scene, because it wants to do it that way. And then in this ready function here, I'm loading our player save data. So I'm getting information about our ship, including weapon slot data, and soon also any ship customizations we have. We're instancing that player ship. We're setting it to be display mode is true. That just makes it just fly through space. That's all it does. And then we're adding the instance to the viewport, so it fires its ready function. So we're adding it as a child of our display viewport, which is just right here. Display viewport is just the viewport. That's all we're doing there. And then what we're doing is we are overriding the weapon slots with what we have in our player save file. So we already went through that overwrite weapon slots method there. We are adding a camera and adding it to our ship instance, or our player instance. I copied and pasted some of this code, so the comments aren't quite right. Whoa, easy on the caps lock there, guys. Stop yelling in the comments. All right, now let's now that we've set overridden weapon slots, let's get them so we can manage them. So then we're just getting our player weapon slots. And then what we're doing here is I made this slot UI element, which is just basically that little circle you see if we run the game here. Reload and go to shipyard, customize. These little circles here that go yellow when you highlight them, when you mouse over them. Those it's loading that scene, which I can show in a second too. But like once I click on it, it populates this detail section here. That's all it does. Here we go. Leave, exit, boom. Look at that. It's almost like it's a real game. Almost. It's getting there. So then what we're doing is we are creating that slot UI element. We're setting the reference to be our slot, so we know which slot we are referencing when we click on it. We are connecting these signals to these functions, and then I'm adding it. I'm adding this control as a child of the weapon slot. So the weapon slot doesn't just have weapons in it anymore. It also has this control node while it's in this display screen here. So then I'm building the BB code string. So I did this in a different way than I did my buy ship window. So if we go to buy ship window here, and we go to the code, and we go where we are building these massive strings here, you can see I'm doing this line by line here. So I'm doing string, and I'm just adding, I made this add cell function, which just basically wraps those cell tags. That's all it does. Yeah. add cell. It just returns the value wrapped in the cell tags. So rather than doing like a string builder like this, where I'm kind of building it piecemeal, I went and just did it one big string, and I added in these formatter codes because Godot allows you to make format strings. So I'm making this big ass format string here. And then to format the string, I'm just saying, hey, this is the, I want this to equal this little percent sign here. If you look at the Godot documentation, yeah, so if you look at formatting strings, if you have multiple placeholders, so you can see here is the format string that it's referencing here. So you can see it's got this little percent sign with an S here. That means it's going to be like of type string. And you can see that we're passing in, so we have 2 of those, and then we're passing in 2 values. So it's just going to populate those based on the order you put them in. So this one is going to be the first index, the 0 index of the array. The next one is going to go to the next one, so on and so forth. So that's what I did here. So I just made a format string, and then I'm populating that with the actual stuff. So everything from our player instance that we already loaded in from the save data, I believe. Might have a bug actually, because I think I'm only loading in stuff on main when I am setting up the space scene. Okay, so I'm gonna have to do some thinking there, but that's what it's doing right now. It's just populating what we have for our player instance, and then cargo space, all that stuff. That's what we're doing there. These are the connector functions I made for when the weapon slot gets moused over. So currently for the entered and exited, where when you hover over it and not hover over it anymore, when you exit it, I just have it printing to the console saying it worked, because I don't know if I need to do any functionality for that. So I might just remove these 2 connector functions. So I'm going to add a to-do. Do we even need these? And I can tackle that later. But this handle slot clicked, this is one I do use. So you can see we're passing in that reference to the slot that we are actually clicking. And so again, I am building a BB code template string. You can see I'm already wrapping it in, I'm basically making a 2-column table. So every row is going to have 2 cells. One cell to label what it is, and the other cell to have the data. That way things are just lined up nicely. I like the way that looks. I might have to approach this differently, because for tags, if I want to make them individual things that you can mouse over and it explains what the tag is, I don't think I can do that within BB code. So if I can, I'll have to figure out how to do that. Let's take a look at BB code actually. Can I do that's something for later. So yeah, so I'm building that BB code string. I'm preparing the data that's going to be formatted in it. So here's where I'm doing my calculations to determine like how many shots per second it fires, what's the damage per second that it does, and I think I'm also calculating the range of it as well. So I'm doing all that stuff there. And then once I've got all the variables formatted and calculated, I'm actually, once I have all the variables calculated, I'm formatting my string, populating that format string with the values that go in it. And that's how I'm currently handling that. So that's basically what I'm doing with this customize window. And it's working okay. It's pretty bare bones. I still have to add some functionality here for, like, you know, see available modifications for sale. When you click that, it's going to bring up another window. So I got to handle that. I have to design that window. And I'm trying to do this in a way that the styling is sparse, because I'm going to be delving into themes and create like a big universal theme that I should be able to use. And so yeah, that's going to be a whole big ordeal. I got to have lots of brain juice on hand to just think about that. So that's on my list of things to mess around with. But I think that's mostly what I've done. Oh, I made a change to add a to-do. Let me save that there. There we go. So let's go back up to my big old to-do list here. So started on customization window. And the last thing I did, I think I did this today, had ChatGPT make an abbreviated currency formatter function for me. So that was the thing I showed you where now it says it's like, oh, it's 8 billion and not like 8 with a whole crap load of zeros after, right? So let's go take a look at my util auto load. And if we go to format currency abbreviated, this is the function that I made here. So again, we're determining what prefix we have, whether it's positive or negative. So if the value is less than 0, we are going to go negative. We're going to set the prefix to be negative. And then what we're doing is, this is what ChatGPT did, is it's setting an absolute value. So absolute will just make it positive no matter what. If it's negative or positive, it just makes it positive. So that was the equivalent of me doing like, if it's below 0, then value equals value times -1, because a negative times negative makes a positive, right? So that was how I was doing it. That's probably what this absolute function does behind the scenes. I don't know. But yeah, so we're setting an absolute value and we're initializing a suffix to be nothing. And then, so this is the part where we had ChatGPT come up with this stuff here. So this stuff it's doing here, I didn't understand what the hell it was doing at first, but thankfully I asked it what it was doing and it explained it for me. So that's super cool. So you can see like this 1e notation. This is basically like this 1ex is just 10 to the x power. So 1e6 is 10 to the 6th power, which is a million. So we know that, so that's what we're doing here. So then we're working our way down. We're starting from our max, so I don't imagine we're ever going to go above quintillion. If we do, we got problems. I mean, I could go up to, what's the next thing? Sextillion? Is that a thing? I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter right now. So 10 to the 15th power is 1 quintillion, basically. So what we're doing is say, hey, if it's greater or equal to 1 quintillion, then what we're doing is we're dividing our absolute value by that amount. So it's going to give us 1. And then we're adding the suffix of q to it. So it's going to give us 1q. So if we have something like, 1 quintillion, 324 trillion or whatever, it's going to give us 1.32 because it's dividing that. So it's giving us that 1.32 blah, 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 blah. But what I'm doing is I'm stepifying that value to only have 2 decimal places after. So I'm just working my way down. So if it's greater than this, it's quintillion. If it's greater than 10 to the 12th power, that means it's a trillion. So we are dividing it by that, and we're just doing that every single time, right? So that we always get that lowest value. And then if it's that, we're just, we just go down, and if it's below 1,000, then it just comes out as the normal stepified value. So that's how we always do that. And then we are returning that as a built string. So it's going to have the prefix, the value, and then the suffix. So that's how we're working there. Again, prefix is just the assign, whether it's positive or negative. If it's positive, there's no prefix. If it's below 1,000, there's no suffix, right? So that's the formatter function that it works. And I also explain the logic here just in case I forget, because I haven't seen this notation used. So I wasn't familiar with this this slash equals. That's how you can do division in place, apparently. So it's the same as doing like value equals value divided by whatever, right? You don't have to do it that way. It's kind of like when you do like plus equals to increment something, or plus plus or whatever. It's kind of like doing that. So that's the last thing I did. But yeah, that's the... I'm surprised I remembered most of this stuff, to be honest. Because again, I've been working on this like sporadically over the last 3 or 4 months. Just small bits and pieces at a time. I think maybe I had like 2 good nights to where I felt like I had time and I could focus, and I still had that mental energy to be able to focus and work on this stuff. So I think on those 2 nights, I got the weapon slot save data stuff worked out, and I also got the tag system worked out. Everything else was just a little bit of stuff I've been sprinkling in between, and also working on the customized window. I've been working on this customized window for like the past month, and it's not like if I just had a few hours of where I could just work on it, uninterrupted with no distractions, and I actually had the energy, I could probably knock it all out and get it done. But I haven't had that. By the time I get to where I can work on it, it's usually late at the night. It's already 9 o'clock here, which is pretty late for me now since I work earlier than I used to. And so, yeah. But that's the challenge of indie game development, baby. You just got to keep working at it. You just got to keep trucking. So, even on the days where I don't do anything, sometimes I'll even still spend a few minutes before bed. I'll just pop open Godot. I'll just read my little master comment section here about what I've been doing, brainstorm some ideas. Sometimes I even like jot notes down and stuff in like a little book or whatever. And I've got a bunch of random stuff about missions and lore and like factions and ships I want to make and weapons I want to add and features I want to put in there that just aren't quite there yet. So like in my to-do list here, it's getting pretty damn big. It's bigger than my to-done list, you know what I'm saying? So things to do. I want to experiment with shaders. I want to add an option to repair your ship if damaged at a location, because right now I don't think it like if I'm damaged and I land and I leave, I think I'm still damaged. So I want a way to fix that. Also deciding how I want to handle ship customization. So coloring the ship, adding, removing, and moving weapon slots, stat boosters, all that stuff. I'm already kind of working on that. Design UI. I need to come up with actual... At some point, I think I'm going to redo every UI in this game because I'm not happy with how it looks. I don't know how much of that is going to be resolved with just making a theme, or if I just need to redesign the UI entirely to actually be intuitive and useful. So I might just end up redoing the UI entirely. But yeah, I need to come up with some ideas about what I want to look like, at least. I need to polish the map, because the map right now is pretty atrocious. Again, brainstorm events, story, and dialogue systems. I got a lot written down in various places for that. Rework boost. I think I did that already, so I can get rid of that. I already have a to-do that to fix boost. There were some cases where you would just keep boosting forever if you didn't touch any keys. You would just keep boosting forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. So that was interesting. Let's see. Refactor polling code to use signals. Add more useful information in the left panel UI. Finish the rest of right panel UI. Tab targeting. That's something I do also want to add in. Add the option for A and D steering or mouse steering. Currently, your ship points towards your mouse. Some people might want to do A and D steering. So that's how I programmed it originally. Was you were doing like old EV Nova controls where you would do A and D to rotate your ship left and right. So I might add that back in. I still have the code there ready to go. So it's just a matter of adding it to my options and then having a toggle. So that's on there. Add more ships. I still have some coalition ships that need to be added in. So I'm still working on that. I got to improve the AI state return to carrier, because sometimes, like if a carrier launches a fighter and then it comes back, sometimes the fighter will just keep like looping around. It doesn't predict where to go very well. So I got to figure that out. Radial enemy marker around player ship. Oh, right. So I want to have it to where there's like the little pointer, like a little arrow marker pointing to like enemies. That's just in a radius around your ship, so you can kind of see where your enemies are clearer, rather than having to just only rely on the mini map. Maybe I might make that like a modification or something. I don't know. More diverse weapons. So I wrote some ideas down, like energy orb, a canister that explodes at short range, leaves behind an energy orb that zaps enemies. Could be cool. A shield recharge beam, kind of like a damage beam, but instead it recharges shields. So maybe I could deploy drones that can recharge my shields to keep me fighting. A tractor beam, a beam that affects enemy velocity. So you could maybe slow enemies down and try to pull them towards you so they can't run away. That could be awesome. Guided projectiles like missiles or orbs or whatever else. Deployables. This is something I also want to do, like shields, black holes, vortexes. Like, I want to be able to add some dynamic there, because right now it's just a matter of like, oh, I just chase ship and shoot ship, and when ship gets low health, it tries to run away. What if you can go into an engagement and you can plant deployable shields, and you can actually just hide behind your shields and just demolish enemies from a distance, and they have to get through your shields or move in, and maybe you might have like black holes and stuff in the way, so they'll have to like go around, and you can just shoot them the entire time. Like, there's all sorts of tactical stuff you can do with that as well. Splintering projectiles. So sometimes I want a projectile to explode into smaller projectiles. I want the ability to do that. EMPs, electromagnetic pulses, disable electrical systems. Acid, maybe it affects mechanical ships when shields are down, or biological ships, or whatever. Explosive, truly explosive, creates an impact that affects all enemies. Because right now, like when I'm shooting missiles, it has the explosion, but it only affects the enemy that it initially hit. It doesn't affect, so I think I need to move the dealing the damage from when it impacts to when it explodes, and have it snapshot that damage to like everybody who is colliding with that explosion. So I gotta rework that. So lots of stuff I want to do. Other ideas that may need more thought before being considered for implementation. Maybe like pilot AI ranks. So for example, like more experienced AI pilots could have better AI, use more tricks, strafe, etc. Captain's log could be cool, like a history of actions or purchases, arriving to a new system or landing at a planet, etc. Just like a log of what you've done. Could be something cool. Player reputation. So the consequences of piracy, etc. So right now you can just start attacking ships in the system and nothing happens to you. So we want to have some way of handling that. So I have to have a system in place to do that. And also I was playing around with the idea of maybe having different ship conditions. So for example, if you're going to go buy a ship, maybe it might be like a pretty poor used ship that just has lower base values, and maybe you could repair those if needed. You could spend money to repair them, but I don't know. Could be, I don't know if I want to add that in. I don't know if that adds to the gameplay at all, or if that's just another tedious task that players would have to do. So yeah, anyway, that's enough of me rambling. It's been an hour and 20 minutes. Oh, Jesus, man. 80 minutes for a devlog of basically nothing. That's rough. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate it. And I will see you in whatever video I make next, whenever I make it.